Happy Mercury Day, Collective. Hope everyone's doing well and that the combined energies of Mercury and Pluto and the Sun in Aquarius aren't keeping y'all too far into the depths. Although I have to say that it's kind of what the configurations of this month are made to do. No exception for me. And if you have already subscribed to this channel, welcome back. I appreciate you. Now more than ever these days, I find. If you haven't subscribed, I'd really appreciate it if you did, because I want this place to be one of those sort of authentic, non-therapy, but maybe a little quasi-therapeutic spot that's not too curated for your tastes right now, in an era of I think a thirst for authenticity and wanting to see what's beneath the surface, wanting to see the grit of a thing, because I find that well, the energies collectively are kind of inviting us to spend more time there in places of discomfort. That's what really Pluto is all about. So subscribing to this channel and sharing and liking, sharing even like on a text with a friend that you feel might get something out of just the ability to maybe relate and extract some things for whatever they're going through. I find that especially if you're reticent to go to therapy or you don't have the resources to, the next best thing is often finding a way to relate to normal people who are struggling in ways that might be different, but I think you'd find there's a lot of overlap these days with the nature of our struggles, especially based on the collective transits. So I had posted something on the Instagram page for this, for Moonflower Collective. And if you do follow this page on YouTube or subscribe and you don't, and you want to see the Instagram posts, for the most part, I try to keep them and the YouTube shorts to be fairly similar. But every now and then, something will get posted on Instagram that doesn't make it to the channel, simply because it'll be like just a photo and then like the opportunity for a longer caption. So if you would like to follow on Instagram, I highly encourage you to, and I would love to have you over there. And it's just Moonflower Collective on Instagram. It's not the Moonflower Collective. So just look up Moonflower Collective on Instagram if you want to have some of the posts that tend to explain some of the energy of like the day-to-day transits, where the shorts or a longer video doesn't really allow for. So I had the last thing I posted on Instagram was about the energy of what Mercury entering Aquarius, having left Capricorn, what Mercury entering Aquarius and therefore sitting there conjunct with Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius, what that feels like. And it's I guess that after having spent a couple days there and having kind of zoomed over, and now Mercury, remember, is the fastest moving planet in our solar system. So it's since passed. Pluto is still sitting at 0 degrees, but Mercury is like progressed on. It will soon be followed suit by a very uncomfortable parade of personal planets that you will feel. We're gonna have Venus and Mars following suit, so there will be a very large cluster of things that are going to cross over that Pluto threshold. Now, remember, Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, time, thresholds, boundaries, structure, discipline, and Uranus, which is like sudden insight or progressiveness or sort of a reinvention of yourself, reinvention of your idea of things. So when you put all the planets and they parade about into Aquarius, just that concentrated Aquarian energy is a lot. But then when they all kind of do this like ceremonial Passover of Pluto sitting there at 0 degrees of Aquarius, they all sort of get that flavoring of Pluto before they make their way and progress through Aquarius. And that is actually something that has never happened in our lifetimes before. And that's why I'm making this video. I'm making this video for several reasons. One, because I think that this is a very important series of things to let you in on. As if you're watching this, surely you have already felt what that Mercury conjunct Pluto, and since having progressed in a little further, feels like. And if you know a little bit more about astrology, and you can like take that a step further, that is the closest thing you'll ever know if you don't have your natal Mercury in the 8th house of Aquarius, which is my natal placement. I almost feel like this like obligation to coach people through it, because I'm like, this feeling that you felt the last few days, this is like where I live. That is like the which I guess shouldn't be that shocking when you look at the nature of this channel. It's the 8th house is the place of like, it's associated with Scorpio and Pluto. Remember, Pluto is the co-ruler of Scorpio along with Mars. So when you have a natal Mercury, your planet of thinking, communication, rational processes, like analytical skills, when you have that natally in Aquarius in the 8th house, your mind just stays in the depths, really, especially as applied to the collective energies. Like, so you find a lot of forensic analysts there, and like people who work in clandestine services, psychologists, like especially like depth psychology, anything that marries like the what's below the surface plus like um analyzing like collective behaviors, like the human nature, like what's beneath the depth of people, like collectively. um that is very much 8th house Mercury in Aquarius, but it's also probably the energy that you found yourself sort of in. And if that's not your natal placement, you're probably like, why is my mind lingering in the depths, like I'm not usually here, so that would be why. And it's almost like a you know seems kind of messed up that like we would have this series of transits rolling over Pluto right in time for Valentine's Day. Can't help but think, based on other transits that I won't get into now, that is extremely well, it's almost like a cosmic joke on everyone, but not really. It's more so like in case you thought you could like ignore this one push or pull to action, or abandoning a certain action, or confronting something you've been avoiding. The transits as a whole in general right now seem to essentially, will probably feel like a vice being tightened on you right now. Aquarius, all of these planets in Aquarius are going to feel like that alone, but coupled with other things like the North Node in Chiron conjunct in Aries right now, really inviting you to find that inner authority and to sort of live in that. And then Uranus being direct in Taurus, and the aspects that's forming to all the planets in Aquarius, square aspects. It's basically the cosmos way of saying, like, that thing that you've been like trying to press down and bury. Well, guess what? Pluto doesn't allow. Pluto unearths those things that are buried, and it's like all the other planets and things in the sky right now are like conspiring to make us all come hell or high water confront things that often we've put a lot of energy into like avoiding, burying, whatever, which is probably like the most human thing we could all like do, right? It's not no reason to be ashamed. It's we're humans, like we seek out joy, we seek out comfort, we seek out like when we can like levity, and I just want anyone who's like struggling right now to know that it's the most normal thing you could be doing right now is don't overthink it in terms of why do I feel like this? Is there something wrong? No. It shows that your mind is working exactly as it should. There's like a lot of clarity that you got going for you, at least in terms of the energies that you are receiving. Now, what you do with it is up to you, of course, but I'm just here to let you know that the theme of Pluto is only becoming louder, and it's not just because it's sitting there at 0 degrees of Aquarius. It's because we're having this, like I said, parading of all the other planets as they cross that threshold into Aquarius. We'll be sitting conjunct with that 0 degrees of Aquarius Pluto before they progress. And so, um, we're going to have, as I mentioned in the last video, the next transit that you'll like really notice first is we'll have the new moon in Aquarius on February 9th. I believe that would be Friday. And that will be at 20 degrees of Aquarius. And a new moon, as you may or may not know, is sort of this invitation to plant seeds, sort of like a putting into motion like things that are going to help you become more in alignment with what you envision for yourself moving forward. And so in the lead up to that, the way the energy tends to work is that sort of that vice being tightened, because it's like almost this nudging of the planets to don't don't be avoidant, setting, sort of urging you to set yourself up correctly for that planting new seeds on February 9th, that new moon energy. And so with that, I've mentioned before, when you have a trine aspect, which is a harmonious exchange of energy, we've got that going for us right now. So currently Venus, it's still in Capricorn. It hasn't made its way out. Has a little bit more time before it moves into Aquarius before next week. But while it's in Capricorn, it is currently conjunct the moon. And so Venus and the moon sitting right next together in Capricorn, that's a harmonious, it's harmonious in terms of the energy exchange between Venus and the moon. So you should find it rather easy to, all things Venusian, all things like beautiful and like love and relationships and harmony, you should find it rather easy, at least, to sit in that energy in terms of like your emotional, intuitive side with the moon. They should be working in harmony with one another. And what's interesting is those two energies, the moon and Venus, sitting there like side by side, cooperating in conjunction in Capricorn. So, a grounded earth energy. They are forming a trine. So again, a harmonious aspect to Uranus in Taurus, the fixed earth sign. And Uranus, co-ruler Aquarius, is sort of like, because it's a trine, it's sort of Uranus playing nice with those energies of Venus and the moon, sort of like inviting you without force right now in this little window of time before this new moon and before the less than ideal transits of next week, sort of nudging you to maybe channel that Uranus energy and re-contemplate your idea of love, beauty, harmony, emotional expression. It is urging you, but like in that gentle nudge way, because of the trine. It's like, hey, let your freak flag fly when it comes to expressing yourself. Maybe have you ever, and so artistic expression could come in there, but how you express yourself to those you love, like have you put yourself in these shackles or created some constraints that don't need to be there necessarily? Is there a way to like honor those Venusian qualities and that your emotive, like intuitive energies of the moon? Is there a way we can channel Uranus deliberately, give that energy something to do productively by setting the tone deliberately yourself? Just, even if it's this declaration, well, I'm going to start painting again. I used to paint when I was really young, and like um, it was really cathartic, just kind of release those feelings on canvas, and like I didn't overthink it, and I just sort of did it, and like the beauty was in the fact that I didn't hold back. I didn't filter myself, and it was just for you. Didn't need to be something that you built a profession on, or didn't need to be something that you even posted online. It didn't need to be something you shared with anybody. Um, Same with any active expression. Um, so Uranus is currently playing nice and urging us to get ahead of the get ahead of the game and sort of set the tone ourselves, like impose that Uranus energy upon ourselves, um, because come Friday with that new moon energy and these the moon being at 20 degrees of Aquarius, you will then have the moon squaring Uranus, because mind you, the moon will have traveled all that way in the length of time to where Uranus, being an outer planet, therefore a collective planet like Pluto, it will still be at that same degree, 19 degrees of Taurus. And that's why something that seems like a harmonious flow one week, the next week, when it comes to something like the moon that changes signs every 2.5 days, um, those personal planets that are closer to us, they're going to travel faster. So the configurations that they make to the outer planets will change. So therefore, the energy that you feel as a result changes, simply because of the pace of the orbit of the personal planets. So Uranus, like the sort of playing nice thing that it's doing now at 19 degrees of Taurus, will turn into all right, we're at the square now. The square formation, as I've said, it's considered tension. It's one of the more challenging aspects. Some astrologers would say the most challenging aspect, a square. But a square is like how, you might say it's like the grit that forces over time, like the cultivation of a pearl. It's like it's uncomfortable. And so I don't always I like to, like, especially in astrology, steer away from good and bad all the time, because we associate good with like comfort and bad with discomfort. But without discomfort, it's static. It's nothing. It's no change, no growth, no diamonds, no pearls. You need tension and pressure to cultivate something rare that is done with discipline and efforts little by little over time. And that's the reward. And so I say that as sort of like a hey, if you're sort of inclined to think, is this good or bad, like in my chart or just the collective transits, it's like, oh no, this is bad. Well, I mean, it's only bad if you spend all of your energy avoiding discomfort, which, to be fair, I think um something that a lot of people do. We like, that's where all the distractions and things that dull out our senses and numb us, like our coping mechanisms, that's where they kind of come in. It's no judgment. I mean, sometimes, like, you acknowledge that, like, in a perfect world I would not need this little comfort, but like I'm doing the best I can. So I mean, honestly, I get that. Been there. I'm just saying that if it's any morsel of comfort to you, to know there's never been a better time to, like, just declare you're going to be somebody that gets really good at discomfort. Simply because why not, instead of like sticking your head in the sand. If we're all going to be subject to these collective energies, if you're like me, there's, yes, in my perfect world I wouldn't have to be suffering and having to like make certain decisions and um letting go of certain things so that like better things could come in. And we all want to resist that, like, especially someone with strong earth placements. I get that a lot. Like, I have a bend towards maintaining the ship, like keeping it steady, which is good until it's not. And that's why I say um, your qualities that make you the stable friend, that make you the, like, I can hold things together, that are controlled, very Capricornian, like very Saturnian. You need those things. They're there for a reason. But when we're all being invited as a collective to consider what things no longer serve us, whether in the context of our own lives or, in the shared sense. Somebody who has always been stable, who is known for being the stable person, and who knows how to keep a ship steady, um, and spin as many plates, will contort themselves. Um, Always try a little bit harder. Just if I could do a little bit more, get up a little bit earlier, or like do with a little bit less, deny myself a little bit more. That would be an example of how, for example, Capricornian energy or Virgo energy especially can become distorted. What becomes what's controlled and good and productive and organized and all the things that you need to like turn thoughts into reality, to implement, to execute. Yeah, you need those, but they can become distorted because sometimes the challenge isn't to maintain or sustain. The challenge is to actually let go, break free, transform. And that is really frightening. I mean, so whoever you are watching this and whatever moving parts are going on in your life, just know that not every invitation to transform and rearrange, reconfigure, it doesn't mean that like the things that you love have to all go, but sometimes there's like some rearranging that's needed. Sometimes it's like a shifting of your energy allotment, like a reprioritization of things that, like, for the most part, say you picture all the things that take up your energy swirling around your head, forgetting about the order of priority, just like say you just like toss them all up in the air and they're floating. And so the list, the order, the priority that once was, that's out the window. So I like to imagine it like this. Um, Sounds kind of crazy, but this is the Uranus energy of my Mercury. Is imagine all of those things that your energy is like allotted to. And they're just up in the air and they're swirling, and then you just like take them all, you gather them, and you put them in a bowl, and then you just dump them into a blender. Then you blend them all up, and it makes that really weird, like dark purplish brownish color, like a smoothie with all kinds of fruit in it. And so it's like a homogenous thing now. It's just like all one substance, right? You can't, there's no like separation. You can't really see, you can't even remember the number of things at that point. And then you like pour that mixture, you stop blending, you pour that mixture into like ice cube molds, right? And you pop it in the freezer, and you take it out, and it's all these like essentially like these little pieces frozen, these like capsules, all in equal bits of your energy, like what your life force was like allotted to. And suppose you just like put yourself on this regimen to where you just pop one of those every day, just for however say there's just like I don't really know how many ice cubes are in a mold, who knows. Let's just say this one has 12. So for like 12 days in a row, you commit yourself popping one of those frozen things in, and then like each day see what happens. Like if you just visualize that, and then kind of imagine like, what if I just for the hell of it, I just reallotted everything. What if I just kept all of the same things, like all the components are there, but we're just like mash them up and blend them together, and then to where they'll be like indistinct from one another, and then I just pop all the energy. I'm taking the energy back in, I'm taking the things back in. See, how would they come out now? Like if you just had to start from scratch, it's not like the things are lost. The energy, the things, the energy, whatever, wasn't destroyed. It was just kind of blended with everything, to where it's a very Uranus thought exercise. But try to visualize stuff like that. That's what I mean about the Uranus energy. Is however weird and kooky and like out of like your comfortable thought pattern it is, the better, actually. So I hope my weirdo example was sufficiently weird for the way your brain works. But it's an invitation to just, not every call to transform and reconfigure, reimagine is like, let's blow up my life and replace everybody and everything. And I used to be this kind of person, now I'm that kind of person. That is chaotic and doesn't take into account that other people are affected by your actions. I mean, Ask me how I know. That's another video. So it's important for you to tend to you when you know that change is needed, which is, I think, what happens to everyone before they implement either constructive changes in their lives with consideration for the people, the things, the places, whatever that rely on them, or somebody that where it becomes distorted and they just sort of like throw a grenade in all corners and it's like, boom, I'm out. That is not the way to go about things. And it's also, you might say, a way to avoid sitting in discomfort, to sit in a place of temperance where you acknowledge change is needed and you sit with the discomfort of change and not knowing what the answer is, not knowing where you'll be at the end of your 12-day ice cube regimen, and saying that's okay. And I think that that's the reason I say I'm giving you all this now, is because one thing I've learned is that and what astrology has really done for me is it's given a rhyme and reason to energies that have always been there, and that my mind really having a natural inclination towards like pattern recognition and finding commonalities in like a large like data set, especially over time, um, that gives you a sense of like, it's almost sort of this permission to be like, well, it's going to happen. And so I can either be somebody that lives in like Delulu Lemon land, or I give that energy something to do in advance. And I can't emphasize that part enough, is that, it doesn't really matter what you don't have to understand astrology, or I don't even think belief is like a good word. I mean, you don't have to believe that, we revolve around the sun, but like, I got some news for you. So I'm not here to like have an argument about that. It's more so just, you should at least accept that there are energies that you feel subject to, no matter how stable and good your life is, that you can't quite explain. Like, why, if everything's going well and this, and that, and I've got this under control, why would I feel like I'm on this like kind of chaotic carnival ride right now? And there's something to that. And it's because you are a person, you are not an island, you are part of the collective, and therefore subject to collective energies, primarily, especially the collective planets, which are like sort of like the main characters, for better or worse, for the next like several years. It's going to feel, the reason the shift that we're all sort of like living under now and like for the next few years is so palpable and impossible to ignore, is because it involves outer planets all sort of like in like a relatively short time span, making these big moves into like, that will feel like totally different like energies. And so um I say these things because it's, the whole purpose of this is to empower you. The whole purpose is to um in a time where it's easy to feel disconnected from ourselves, which is often or is preceded by feeling disconnected from the natural world. um this is like an invitation to go back to the basics. Like, you're not going to be able to control a lot of the things going on around you, outside of you. But what if you actively like stepped up to the plate as like someone that declared yourself to be a co-creator of like what feels like chaos, like, because you are a co-creator of it. And I mean, what's fascinating is when you start bringing in like studies of like noetic science and like just the development in brain, like neuroscience and brain science, over just the last 2 decades has been like leaps and bounds. And so that's actually given over time a lot more credence to things that once sounded woo woo. It's like woo woo has become kind of like a, well, that's what we call anything we don't understand that isn't like provable by the scientific method. But like in that case, we got a lot of like holes to fill in when it comes to um, a lot of other things that we just sort of dismiss as like, yeah, that's just the thing, like, even though we can't explain a lot of things by science, we can agree that, oh yeah, that's a thing, and it works because it just, it just does. So I like to at least open your mind to entertaining. And honestly, once you do, I think it might feel like a relief, to be honest. The fact that like there's more to things, and like specifically to the way you feel, than you might realize. And not only is that okay, that can be kind of a game changer, really. Giving yourself permission, Uranus, to just, that whole you don't know what you don't know. But now that you do, are you so attached to like some old way of thinking just for some arbitrary attachment to, well, this is how it's always been, so that's that? Well, that seems kind of ridiculous, but extremely self-limiting. So I want you to just know that there's these energies going on, and that it's not you. There's nothing wrong with you. And if you don't talk to a lot of other people regularly, or listen to these sorts of conversations, or engage or participate, maybe that's something that you can feel more comfortable with over time. But um, you'd be forgiven for wondering, like, is everyone else feeling this? Like, what's going on? Especially if you don't know your own natal chart, which is probably the vast majority of you watching. Um, that's kind of why I enjoy like teaching people, because when you do a consult with somebody, the temptation, of course, is like an enthusiast like me, is to teach the subject of astrology to somebody, because you just want to go a mile a minute. But then that's that's not really possible in like a 1 hour consultation. So I have to actively remind myself, you're teaching people their astrology. And so I've really distilled it down as best as I can, and even then I can't keep it within an hour, really. um, to what does this person need to know, the building blocks right now, to understand their astrology, at least to the point of having a solid foundation to build from there, whether it's with like another astrologer, or with me, or on this channel, or other sources. I just really enjoy being that like sort of introduction, like that person standing at the bridge to go, hey, like, let's talk about you. Let's look at you, your blueprint, your wheel of potential, I like to say. So the best I can do for everyone watching, who probably most, again, don't know their astrology, is to tell you about the general energies and emphasizing the collective energies, because regardless of your natal placements, these energies will resonate for anybody. That you don't have to know your astrology to know what you intuit, and they're often things that you don't articulate. Um, but that's why when I do these videos, I, I always consult with what's going on in the sky. And even if I don't talk specifically about what I see, I can always be guided about what will resonate at the right time. So um, that's also a very eighth house Mercury and Aquarius gift, I will say, is having sort of like a extra sharp attunement to collective energies, which for most of my life, to be honest, felt like a curse. And before I even understood anything about astrology, or like thought about it as anything other than sun sign horoscopes in the newspaper, um, it usually caused a lot of suffering, because I didn't understand why I was so affected, especially in groups, in ways that I couldn't articulate. Like I didn't have the language to articulate things that I picked up on, and like how that made me feel. And so you just sort of like suffer in silence. And it wasn't until learning that the suffering turned into like a sense of empowerment. And then like there's this weird process you go through about like the temptation to not get angry, like about like, man, I was sitting there feeling like something was wrong with me this whole time. And so that's also sort of like a fun part of teaching someone their astrology, especially someone who, I did a consult this past weekend for somebody, and it was a really great chart, because it was someone with strong Capricorn energy, specifically their sun, so the thing that they would just know, my sun, I'm born in this range of dates. My sun is therefore in Capricorn. And, even if you don't know it's ruled by Saturn, but there's just like sort of this general understanding, just from pop culture astrology of like, oh yeah, Capricorn, stern, serious, let's gets the job done. And so this person had their sun in Mercury in Capricorn. Um, and so that's probably like the prototype that they saw themselves as, but like most people, see themselves as or see them as. But like looking at this person's chart was so exciting because I was like, oh, I can't wait to have this consult, because this person probably wonders, like, despite this strong Capricorn energy and like reading the horoscopes their whole life for like Capricorn, what they really should be doing is reading for these water signs every year, because this person had a Cancer rising, which I also have. It's basically like the Thema Mundi birth chart, like the mother, like the birth chart of the universe, the very feeling, very intuitive and very maternal. Um, it's associated with the moon and the mother, and feminine energy is associated with uh, rivers. If you think about like the water signs as like bodies of water, Cancer is like a river. You feel all the emotions, but like the goal is to let them just pass by you. Like you got to feel them and then like let them flow through. But that makes you extremely emotionally sensitive and intuitive to like a wide range of emotional states. Not to mention the fact, if you're Cancer rising, your ruling planet is the moon. And if you can imagine just how the moon affects everyone, regardless of your natal placements, when you're Cancer rising, your chart ruler, the moon, changes signs every 2.5 days. So you get this fun roller coaster ride of essentially feeling in tune with like all 12 archetypes, like um, over the course of 1 month. And it's like, no, I'm not moody. It's just that my chart ruler is the moon. You guys don't understand. So seeing this person, with the strong Capricorn, like their outward persona, their sun and Mercury, their thinking planet in Capricorn, I was like, this person probably wonders like why, despite this Capricornian energy, all the feels, the things that are beneath the surface have got to feel sort of like a contradiction at times, because they also had a very watery moon. They had a Pisces moon. Like in Pisces is I associate that with like the ocean. Pisces is like the ocean of emotion. It's the oldest water sign. It's the last one in the zodiac before it all starts over and you get to Aries, start of the year, the zodiac new year. And so when your moon is in Pisces, that's like an extremely sensitive moon. That is an extremely like um, inclined towards psychic energy and all of that. So I couldn't wait to talk to this person about like, hey, just in case you're wondering where all those feels come from, get a load of this. And so um, that was a very Mercury being conjunct Pluto in Aquarius outlet for me to be able to indulge in as a native eighth house Aquarius moon. That was, or eighth house Mercury. Those that Pluto and Mercury energy, and it was also a great time for that person to receive this information. That's what made it a really great consult for the moment. So, um, I want to tell people about these energies because next week, like I said, it's like Valentine's Day is just I don't know. It doesn't really seem very suited for February, in my honest opinion, anyways. Like a Saturn and Uranus ruled month. It's like, oh yeah, like cold, hard Saturn, stern, discipline, mixed with like anything can happen Uranus, plus like a day for romance. That's seems a little oddly placed. But anyways, this year especially, it's going to feel like you're going to feel something because you're going to have a conjunction with mind you, after they all cross over that threshold of Pluto entering Aquarius, there will be this conjunction of like of Mars, the planet of like action, but also aggression, like passion, but also like conflict and like war, thinking first and then like, or acting first and thinking later. You're gonna have Mars and Venus, like the planet of love, beauty, harmony, the Valentine's planet, right next to Mars. Um, and so you're gonna have like this lineup. So it's gonna be like the sun and like Mars and Venus and Mercury will be nearby. Um, all the while Pluto is like sitting there at that threshold of 0 degrees. You're gonna have this pile up in Aquarius. Um, Everything having been supercharged with Pluto upon entering right in time for Valentine's Day. So it's gonna feel like a lot, but I say this because it's like a great energy. Like I said about Pluto before, Pluto doesn't destroy or like throw grenades in things that are solid. So I mean, if you've got a solid relationship, this isn't the time to start like finding problems where there aren't any. I mean, if you know if that's true or not, that's not like within my purview to even like talk about. It's more so of like if you're already sort of unsettled and at this like point of like not knowing where you are, you're at a crossroads, and then like you also happen to be in this relationship that you feel is at a crossroads. I mean, that's really where like the sort of red flag is of next week. And I say that because like we all live in our own realities that have a lot of demands, and like not everyone has like the availability to sit down tonight and be like, all right, let me figure out all my relationship issues. Like that's not a practical thing for everyone either, although never a better time than now. But sometimes it's just sort of like if you're inclined to like sort of overcompensate and go, well, my relationship's struggling, we already feel like maxed out and like we have a lot to talk about and we know it and we're stressed out. Don't be the person that next week goes, you know what, I'm gonna do some big grand gesture and then like contort yourself into like we're gonna drive to this city that's like an hour drive, and then we're gonna like go to this place that we've talked about before, and I don't really know the details, but it'll be fine. And then like figure out like a babysitter, and then figure out what to do. This don't do that to yourself next week. I mean, and I say that only as like somebody who understands what that energy is like, anyways, when a relationship is good and harmonious. Now, if your relationship is good and harmonious, and y'all like plan stuff like that together all the time, anyways, go for that. Go for that excitement. Embrace the Uranus energy. Go for it. Go for passion. Go for weird. Go for. I mean, that's between you and your person. That's not what this channel is about. But if you're already sort of in that place of tension and like everybody feels it, and everyone's sort of already maxed out with energy, and like you're maybe asking too much of both of you to like contort yourselves into making some out there exotic plan work for just for the sake of being like, see, like look at me bending over backwards for Valentine's Day. Don't do that. I mean, that's that's not something that you want to do to yourself next week. Um, if you are in a place of like already feeling maxed out, because well, that's probably one of the most valuable things astrology can do is like allow me to say those things confidently, because I don't always I don't like to speak in absolutes, and I don't like to say stuff like stay inside, the transits are nasty, like don't interact, don't look anyone in the eye. I mean, no, that's ridiculous. And often the best way to learn about the energy of yourself and transits and like yourself in the context of transits is to interact with the world. Like you're never going to be able to get better at managing tension and like transformation and places of discomfort sitting in your house and avoiding human interaction all the time. And that's something that I want to emphasize just in general this year, because the temptation in a lot of cases, especially after like the pandemic and all, where we like had to do that for a while, and then like it was like who's vaccinated and who's not, and like what's safe and what's not, and who's in charge here. It all kind of in a very twisted way prepared us to sort of temper our hopes for like a central authority figure, a central data source, a central truth about what's safe and what's not, what's prudent and what's not. um, we were forced just by circumstance to sort of like start going more within, and like sometimes it meant taking risks based on like an analysis only you could make. um, and sometimes it meant like not taking risks based on what you already knew about you know, for some people, like certain sensitivities or like immune disorders, like things to where you would have liked to like participate in an event, but like you weren't in the position to explain to all these people, like, yeah, I have this like pre-existing condition. And so I think it kind of got people who were at least were in good faith and trying their best to like be helpful to others instead of being like divisive, to just assume that people were making the best decisions they could with like what information they had and with the realities of themselves that they knew. So I would say that that is a good energy to carry with us, like moving forward this year, because everyone is surely fighting their own battles. And then everyone's part of this collective that itself, especially in the United States, is going through its own identity crisis. Honestly, that's what the transits of the United States are. And it's sort of forcing us as parts of that collective, but also part of the collective of the world, to juggle a lot of things that force us to sit in sometimes two places at once, to be of two worlds, to like want the best for, you know, our communities and our country and the groups we associate with, while having to acknowledge the problems that like maybe you weren't there to like create, that create a lot of the tensions that the United States as a collective are facing. And again, it's a hard place to sit because no one likes sitting in discomfort. And like, that's all though part of, I think, the lesson of this year and like the next year or two is give yourself permission to not get defensive or to feel like you have to explain yourself for why you should or shouldn't have this figured out or what have you, and to just sit there in that place of the unknown, as simple as it sounds to say, of the unknown, but also like the relief of like the fact that you're not supposed to have an answer, you know, despite how we might have been like socialized. It's not really a time to where you should be expected to know exactly where you'll be in even like 3 or 4 months from now. But use that as your invitation, like that. Give that energy something to do in advance is what I will go back to, and that itself can be sort of like a welcome relief for anybody that is just looking for a way out of like a lifetime of feeling like they need to have everything figured out and like control all these outcomes. You've probably found that that hasn't really been like successful approach anyways, and it's probably left you feeling exhausted and like sort of worse for wear through these last several years we've been living through. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm just like, can we not have like any more once in a lifetime events? Like, this is a once every 500 years flood. This is a once every. I'm like, personally, I've witnessed like 8 of those things. So I think we need to like do away with that terminology. Just go ahead and get used to like, this is the era of like uncharted waters. That's really, instead of looking at each thing, it's like, this is a one off, that's a one off. Why are all these one offs happening? No, this is just the era. You're here in this era for a reason. Yeah, it seems like it would have been more ideal to be born in the era where everyone had things all figured out. But I'm sure that if we were to rewind 100 years or go forward 100 years, there would be some other series of things to where we would think, oh, if I could only just go to 100 years ago when things were simpler. So I try to look at it like that. It's like, you might as well look at this front seat we all have to this era as like, you know, the good thing about all these moving parts and at this particular stage, like of the threshold, is that, like I said, the opportunity to be a co-creator of what is to come is within everyone's hands. And like, that presents an enormous opportunity for everyone. And that's where I'll go back to that discernment about beware of anybody that tries to make these energies that I'm talking about because just like I talked about in the longer video, that nearly 2 hour video of Pluto and Capricorn to Pluto and Aquarius, that energy, and you are the magician, you know, that's true for everyone. Like, not everyone has the intentions for like co-creating like a more harmonious future. Um, and that's not to say like there will be disagreements. You know, there will be like a group of people that are on board for a more harmonious future. They'll just like have different ideas on how to get there. We can all work together like that. That's a doable thing. But then there will be another boat of people that are going to be shameless opportunists, because shameless opportunists have existed in every era, right? So um, primarily online, you know, like I said, in this era, the Aquarian, Pluto and Aquarius age, that's where you got to use a lot of discernment. Like, beware of anyone out there that tries to use knowledge, you know, of astrology or energy or whatever. Like, I'm not here to discount anyone's knowledge level, because by and large, I find that most people out there who put themselves out there, have the courage to put themselves out there and talk about astrology as a fringe subject, which is going to become way less fringe, which the astrology allows me to know that. But anyways, um, that takes a level of courage, and also it's like you usually don't want to go through the trouble of learning astrology, because it's something that you have to do over several years, and like be very energy consuming. It's not something you want to bother doing and then turn around and like make people feel bad or scared with it, as if that makes sense. Like, it it takes too much of you to get an understanding, to learn all like the richness and the complexity of it, to then like want to turn around and like make people fearful. It just seems like a really silly use of that investment. So one, I would question anyone that gets online and like is trying to make you feel scared and using terminology, like dabbling in the terminology of astrology. I would question their credentials in that way. And that's the problem with fringe topics, is there's no like governing authority. There's no standard with which to assess like this practitioner or that practitioner. So it is like the wild, wild west in a way. So that's where your discernment comes in. Like, you have a lot more power, you know, your like spidey senses, I guess, to you might not know what like a really knowledgeable astrologer sounds like or not, but I would say a good place to start is, how do you feel after listening to somebody, a certain person, talk about it? Do you feel empowered in a way that's like, I didn't understand everything, but like, um, I want to learn more. I'm curious. I feel like I have some sort of hidden potential. I feel that I am more powerful as an alive being in this universe than like maybe I contemplated. Or do you feel like, oh gosh, I need this person. Like, this person's going to lead the way. Like, do you feel like someone is low key making themselves your cult leader? You know what I mean? Like, any astrologer that's trying to make it seem like you need them to navigate this new era. I mean, use your own judgment, but I know what my takeaway would be on that, and it's giving cult. Like, don't the difference. Like, I think a good general lens is like astrology should leave like somebody who like finds themselves in the world of it uh feeling more empowered and more centered within their own world. Like, the thing about like a cult is it centers one person. The thing about something else that's like more productive and empowering is that it centers everyone that learns it. Like, it's like accessible to everyone, and it encourages everyone to actually learn about it, because very much that theme of asserting your individuality within the collective, that is where astrology can become so useful. It's to really sometimes give yourself that permission to like become who it is that you've always deep down suspected you could become. I find that like one of the most rewarding things is to like look at a chart, and like I can look and see as any astrologer can, like sort of like you almost start to see why this person is seeking the consultation. It's so rewarding to see how it jumps out. It's like, oh, this person I'm about to confirm things for this person. What becomes obvious is you realize you are about to tell this person things about themselves that they don't know astrology, but like when you say it, it's going to resonate immediately. And that's very rewarding because you can even see transits. You're like, oh, this person's experiencing like, this Uranus transit. Oh, here's their Pluto square Pluto. So this is going to be, they feel like a transformation that's inevitable and they want to take the reins, and they sense something brewing beneath the surface. And by and large, that's always what it is. Like, it's always what it is, to where the people that find themselves wanting to learn their blueprint are the people that almost want someone to say aloud what it is they've been feeling and didn't have the language to articulate. So I hope to see a future where more people are like empowered within themselves and therefore have what they need to go out into the world and into these like communities where the future is going to be very community oriented. It's going to be, that's part of the power to the people. It's like the responsibility of people to organize like more locally, more localized pockets of community. And there are like a lot of really exciting things that that means. And so in order to really show up and be a meaningful contribution to those communities that you're already a part of, but the ones you will become part of, maybe ones that you establish, like you're like the one that like starts gathering interest and like brings people in who are like-minded and have similar interests and like um, needs that kind of mesh well with your ability to give, and vice versa. um, I really see astrology as a self-empowering tool to allow people to really maximize those little communities that they form in the future. So I hope everyone found something useful out of this, and to know that this February is it's a February unlike any other. We've never had the feeling of what all these planets brushing up against Pluto in Aquarius feels like. And so I don't want you to feel too untethered or disoriented. I know that it can be a scary thing when you're at that threshold of change and you feel that call to action, call to adventure, call to change. But I wanted to get on here despite feeling all in my thoughts today about several things, is on a short that you may or may not have caught. I did talking about Mercury here on this Mercury day. Mercury being in mythology, as the Greeks called him, Hermes. Mercury was the only god that could go to the underworld in the realm of Pluto and make it back unharmed. Out of all the other gods, like in any other tale where someone else goes down to the underworld, like you hear like the tale of Persephone and like her mother Demeter, and like how that affected them. Like it, in other words, others went down to the underworld, but like only Mercury, Hermes, the messenger, son of Zeus, and messenger of Zeus, only he could go down and come back up totally unharmed. And when you think about what that means, and Mercury being your mind, like the planet that rules your rational thinking, analysis, it's like where you're able to, yes, you feel certain things. You have your moon, and that's important, and that's one part of your faculties. But sometimes when push comes to shove, and you feel a certain way, but then and that's where like the depths of Pluto, like when your feelings are trying to navigate you through the underworld, that ain't gonna do it. You have to invoke that archetypal energy of Mercury to get out of dark places, because that's all you've got. That's the only thing that can get you out from the underworld unharmed. But you can do it. You need to channel though that energy. Sometimes it's you got to set the feelings aside and channel that mercurial energy that you've got and get yourself out of a dark place using the power of your mind. And that is the realm of imagination, because you're going to find yourself in places that you've never been, and maybe no one around you has ever been. And that has no bearing on your ability to come back out or come through to the other side. Your mind has everything it needs. And I really encourage you to tap into your imagination, because there's often no right or wrong way to do something beyond, circumventing it. Circumventing something is what can be called the wrong way to do something, because you're not going through something. You're just like kicking the can down the road or trying to bury it down. But Pluto is not going to allow anyone to bury anything. And that's a fact. It's not a good time to be somebody whose life is built on like a bunch of skeletons in the closet. Just hopefully that's not you, because you could just go ahead and assume that what is hidden is not going to be hidden, no matter who you are, for very long. And that's just a fact. It doesn't mean that like every single thing you've ever done wrong is like coming back to haunt you. You know, if this applies. I mean, you know what I'm. If you're somebody who's sitting there like, oh, I've changed my name a few times, and like I did this, and like I absconded with this money, and then I moved to another state. I mean, like that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people whose like lives are built upon like a series of lies that they probably have trouble even like keeping tabs on effectively. So, but that's also good news for justice loving people that always wondered if like wrongdoings, whether done to you or on a collective level, go hidden forever. They don't. It's just every timeline is different. So I would just sit there and focus on you. Don't worry about like somebody getting their karma or some public figure that you're like just dead set on seeing pay the price. I mean, that's a timeline that you don't even have to worry about. Worry about your timeline. Your energy is precious. It is finite, at least in terms of before you can replenish it. You know, it is a replenishable thing, but like not forever and ever and ever. Keep going, going, going. Like you're not the Energizer Bunny. So therefore, like you don't want to waste your valuable pentacles, you might say, on hyper focusing on someone else getting theirs or something. Like you got way bigger, more exciting things to co-create. So in that, that's why I wanted to chop these vegetables in front of you as well, because what I really wanted to do today was to just sit there and kind of escape into something, like get sucked into something mindlessly. Sometimes that's good, but like I didn't mean in the productive way. I just meant like sort of like numbing out in the overthinking myself in inaction, like letting all the thoughts of things I could do go so fast, mercurial, to where I just sat there frozen and went like, well, I guess I've run out of time to do any of them. That's where the vegetable prep comes in. I'm like, okay, if there's nothing else you're going to do with this, you're going to talk about this energy and you are going to prep these vegetables, because now guess what? The task of making a chicken noodle soup doesn't really seem like a task anymore. So anyways, I hope this finds you well. You have everything you need. I believe in you. I'll check in as soon as I can. I've got my own series of transformations in progress and milestones that I will talk about when I'm ready. Until then, you take care of yourselves. I know I will. Till next time.